Welcome to Public Health on Call, a podcast from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, where we bring evidence, experience, and perspective to make sense of today's leading health challenges. If you have questions or ideas for us, please send an email to publichealthquestion@jhu.edu. That's publichealthquestion@jhu.edu for future podcast episodes.
This is Lindsay Smith Rogers, and today our topic is Xolair, the first FDA-approved therapy for food allergies. I talk with Dr. Robert Wood, the Director of Pediatric Allergy and Immunology at Johns Hopkins, about this treatment which can prevent severe and life-threatening reactions in adults and children who have common allergies like tree nuts, eggs, and milk. Let's listen. Dr. Wood, thank you so much for being on Public Health on Call. Today, we're talking about Xolair. What is Xolair and how does it work?
So Xolair is a drug in the sort of the class of biologics where you are using an antibody to block some part of the immune system. And Xolair specifically blocks a type of antibody called IgE. And if somebody develops an allergy, it's because their immune system has started to produce IgE against one or more allergens. So, for example, if you have a cat allergy, I could measure your IgE to cat. Or if you had a peanut allergy, we could do the same for peanut. And Xolair is also referred to as anti-IgE. So it literally blocks the Ig molecules in that individual patient such that they cannot lead to the kind of allergic reaction that they're intended to lead to.
So how's it being used now?
So it's an old drug. It's been used for 21 years to treat asthma and a couple other allergic conditions in the meantime, like chronic hives, it's approved for that. And we've had a sense for a long time, the number of studies that we and others have done, that it should work to block food allergy. And we had the opportunity in this study called the Outmatch study to study that in a way that we could potentially get FDA approval to use this drug specifically for food allergy.
So if a child has an allergy, say, to cashews, how would this drug work?
So the drug would work as an injection that child would receive every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks. Once they've been on it for a few months, in the study we use 4 months, we're still going to tell that child to avoid cashews, but the fear of most families is not that the child is going to go eat a handful of cashews, it's the cross-contamination that might occur because they're around another food. So if the family chose to do this, they could be placed on this medication in an effort to prevent reactions, especially those that would occur from small accidental exposures.
So this is something they would take over time?
It's taken over time, and it's sort of, it's akin to all our allergy drugs, basically, where they work while you're on them. If you're having bad time with your pollen today and you're on your antihistamine, you might be good today, but if you don't take it tomorrow, you'll have a problem tomorrow. This is a lot longer half-life than that. It works for a month or two after you've stopped it, but it's still meant to be a maintenance preventative medicine.
Would this medication be for everyone with an allergy?
So we're talking food allergies specifically, and it's labeled pretty broadly, so theoretically it could be. The label says that if you have a food allergy and you're above the age of 1, you're eligible for this medicine. We really look, though, at some fairly specific groups of patients where we think this would be most appealing and most useful. They turn out to be those patients with multiple food allergies, and that's why we did this study. We have some other treatments that we're studying looking at specific food allergies, but most of our patients are not allergic to just one thing. The advantage of this is it non-specifically blocks IgE, so theoretically it should block any allergy that you have. The multiple allergy piece gets even more complicated when you're allergic to certain things. And the examples I would give is that peanut is relatively easy to avoid, whereas foods like milk and egg are much harder to avoid. And the families that have kids with severe milk and egg allergies, and these allergies are every bit as severe as the worst peanut allergy, they literally cannot eat safely outside their home when they travel. They need a kitchenette to prepare their own food. And the kid can never participate in a birthday party or anything like that. These people are going to be, I think, especially advantaged by this medicine. A second real big factor is going to be age. And I'm not saying a specific age, but I'm saying that families really perceive risk differently at different ages. And sort of two high-risk periods based on the frequency of reactions are preschool age years and then college years. So, either ends of the pediatric spectrum. And there are a lot of kids who are like in school age years who are just doing fine managing their food allergy. But the parents and even the child still fear what's going to happen when I'm not preparing their food any longer. A third thing, and maybe the biggest thing, really is the individual family's perception of the food allergy. And we could have two families sitting together in clinic with the exact same allergy profile. And one would think this drug is an absolute miracle. And the other would think it's nice to know it's out there, but I really don't think I need it now. And the family that thinks it's a miracle, they're the family that literally is thinking every day when their child leaves for school, is this the day somebody's going to make a mistake? And is this the day that she may die? That can be an all-consuming level of anxiety. Then the last thing, which is sort of a little bit off target, but it's very relevant, is that virtually all our patients with food allergy have other allergic diseases. And this drug, because it's non-specific, blocks environmental allergies just like it does food allergies. So if the child is suffering today in the pollen season, taking 2 antihistamines and a nose spray and an eye drop, and they have to bump up their asthma inhaler because the pollen is high, they probably don't need any of those medicines if they're on Xolair.
Now, I was also going to ask about, would people with, say, severe food allergies, would they still have to carry an EpiPen if they were on Xolair?
They will, and they may not, but they should. And the reason for that is because the range of protection varied quite a lot. Most people had really, really high levels of protection. So for peanut, for example, the average patient coming into the study had to react to less than 1/4 of a peanut to be included. And the average person after being treated could tolerate 16 or more peanuts with no reaction. But some people could only tolerate 2 peanuts. And if that person got not just a cross-contamination, but a real dose of peanut because of a bigger mistake, and most likely in a preschool child who just doesn't know that cookie is a peanut butter cookie, they could still have an amount of exposure that would overcome the protection that the medicine provides.
So I know that, for many families, allergies can be, as you said, all-consuming. Are there any downsides to this medication?
One of the good things about this medicine and this study was that because it's been out for so long, there's a huge amount of information on the risk of the drug, adverse reactions. And there is one remaining warning on the package, and that's that somewhere around 1 in 500 people may have an allergic reaction to the injection itself. All that really means, and these are 1 in 500, is pretty rare, and we've never seen one. We didn't see a single one in our study. But what it means is that the first 3 injections are required to be given in a medical setting. And after that, it's approved for home administration. So it's a downside, but it can be really easily managed by these in-office injections that we start with.
I want to talk about something that might be a little bit outside the scope of your study, but is still important to this conversation, and that is the availability of this medication. So say a family wants to find it, how do they get on it? Is it something covered by insurance?
So availability in the strict sense of the word is fine. The drug's been around a while. The company's been anticipating this approval, so there's lots of drug out there. It's an expensive drug, so insurance companies will be taking a very close look at it. And we're just 3 weeks into the approval phase now. And so we're just learning what the barriers may be from the payer side. And the expectation is that it will end up being covered by insurance with reasonable copays and that the out-of-pocket expense will be manageable. But we honestly won't have a full answer to that for another couple months after we have about 50 prescriptions written already. So we're going to learn a lot in the next few weeks.
There are other preventive measures for food allergies. There are other protocols that people may be going through, for example, like exposure therapies, things like that. Does this replace those?
Well, the end result will be there may be different therapies that are better for one family or another, but treatment is very, very limited. There are exposure therapies, but they carry a high risk, are lifetime therapies, and have not had very wide appeal because most families interpret the risk as outweighing the benefit. So we're certain that this approach will have a dramatically higher uptake than whatever else is available out there.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Wood, for being on the podcast. And we are anxious to learn more about this. This sounds like a life-changing therapy for a lot of people.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Public Health on Call is a podcast from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, Produced by Joshua Sharfstein, Lindsay Smith Rogers, Stephanie Desmond, and Grace Cesiri. Audio production by J.B. Arbogast, Holly Cardinale, Spencer Greer, Matthew Martin, and Philip Porter, with support from Chip Hickey. Distribution by Nick Moran. Production support from Catherine Ricardo. Social media run by Grace Cesiri and Eliza Rosen. If you have questions or ideas for us, please send an email to publichealthquestion@jhu.edu. That's publichealthquestion@jhu.edu for future podcast episodes. Thank you for listening.